Breaking news tonight, a lightning strike on a beach in Florida. One man hit directly, multiple people sent to the hospital.
That's the thing, and then the lightning just came out of nowhere.
As a brutal heat wave bakes the eastern half of the country.
The heat is really bad.
139 million suffering through temperatures that feel like triple digits. Cooler air is coming, but it's also bringing dangerous storms. Also breaking, the governor of Puerto Rico speaking late today, saying he won't seek re-election, but despite protests, he will not resign. Dramatic video of a Venezuelan fighter jet aggressively shadowing a U.S. Navy plane over the Caribbean. The U.S. military says the actions put their crew at risk. Grounded, British Airways has stopped all flights to Cairo, Egypt, over a heightened risk of terrorism. New allegations that the country's largest concert promoter was sending tickets directly to scalpers, raising new questions about why prices are so high. Plus, there's a new box office champion, the heroes who finally endgamed Avatar.
This is NBC Nightly News with Kate Snow.
Good evening. For much of the country, it's been a sweltering weekend of unrelenting heat. Excessive heat warnings and advisories in effect from the Midwest to the East Coast. The heat index topping 110 in Baltimore, Norfolk, and Atlantic City. At least 3 deaths are blamed on the heat. And late word today, a lightning strike on Clearwater Beach on Florida's Gulf Coast. Our Kathy Park has all the latest.
This afternoon, lightning at a beach in Clearwater, Florida, struck a man in his 40s.
Shocked and thrown to the ground,
sending him into cardiac arrest. He's currently in critical condition, and several others are recovering from their injuries. While across the country, scorched cities hitting a boiling point with another day of relentless heat.
It's toasty warm.
Outside of Manhattan in Queens, hundreds of customers were without power earlier today, and many were finding relief outside rather than inside their home. Last week, expecting mom Elsa Cano was admitted to the hospital because of the heat.
Physically, do you think you can handle another day of this?
No.
In Wisconsin and Michigan, severe storms exacerbating conditions, with thousands of customers entering day 3 offline without electricity. Also in the Midwest, the heat index reached 110 in Indianapolis, where the Metro Police Force was out on the streets handing out water to the city's homeless.
It's all about giving back and making sure that everyone's personal health and safety is actually taken care of.
Also trying to beat the heat, zoos in Illinois and Oklahoma, as bears, tigers, and turtles cooled off with icy treats and cold showers. Thankfully, the end of this heat wave in sight.
I know that the heat will break. All things pass.
But the brutal weekend baking in the sun is one that many won't forget.
And in New York City, the excessive heat warning is not set to expire until 9 o'clock tonight, but it won't be until tomorrow when New Yorkers really feel a difference when they walk outside. Kate?
Kathy Park, thank you. And as Kathy said, there is relief in sight, but those cooler temperatures also come with an increased risk of dangerous storms. NBC meteorologist Erica Grow has more on that and what we can expect in the days ahead. Erica?
Kate, the heat wave is finally about to come to an end, but as of now, we still have heat alerts in effect for 87 million people in the Midwest, the Ohio River Valley, and in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. A cold front is on the way, and we're finally going to see temperatures below average for this time of year. In Pittsburgh, a high of 71, 13 degrees below average. Cooler in Cincinnati and St. Louis as well. Milwaukee, also cooler than average temperatures. By Tuesday, that relief moves into the rest of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. In Charlotte, it's going to be 9 degrees below average. But along with this cold front will come the threat for severe thunderstorms, and that risk mainly in D.C. and Philadelphia on Monday. 17 million people at risk for severe thunderstorms to start off the work week. Kate?
WNBC's Erica Grow. Erica, thanks. Facing calls for his resignation late today, the governor of Puerto Rico announced he will not seek re-election next year and is stepping down as head of his party, acknowledging that, quote, saying sorry is not enough. But he is not resigning. Thousands of protesters have filled the streets over the past week after private chats between the governor and others were leaked that contained profanity, misogynistic, and homophobic comments. The U.S. military is condemning Venezuela after a dangerously close encounter in the skies over the Caribbean. A fighter jet from the South American country flying aggressively close to a U.S. plane. And the U.S. is providing the video to prove it. Morgan Chesky joins us with more. Morgan?
Yeah, Kate, good evening. And tonight, the military calling this high-flying encounter highly reckless, saying this Venezuelan jet caught on camera not only acted aggressively, but jeopardized the entire safety of that American crew. Tonight, the U.S. military says there's no mistaking the mission of this Venezuelan Su-30 fighter. The video captured high above the Caribbean shows what officials call an aggressive shadowing of a U.S. surveillance plane. The encounter's so close, Southern Command said the Russian-made jet endangered the American crew with an unsafe maneuver. Now the crossing of paths only raises tensions. Russia backing Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro as the U.S. actively supports the man trying to replace him, Juan Guaido.
The Venezuelans are obviously lashing out against their principal antagonists, which they see as the United States.
Tonight, military leaders say the action demonstrates Russia's irresponsible military support to Maduro's illegitimate regime and underscores Maduro's recklessness and irresponsible behavior. Florida Senator Marco Rubio not mincing words, writing, Venezuela only has 3 fighter jets that can fly. If they ever harmed any U.S. aircraft, they would soon have 0. And important to note, Kate, on the same day this event happened, the Trump administration announced sanctions against 4 of the top officials in Venezuela's counterintelligence agency. Kate?
Morgan Chesky in Miami for us. Morgan, thank you. New audio is revealing what happened moments before Iran seized a British oil tanker in the Straits of Hormuz on Friday. UK forces can be heard warning Iran that attempting to board would violate international law as that confrontation escalated. Matt Bradley has late details.
Tonight, fresh audio from a standoff on the high seas.
If you obey, you will be safe. Alter your course 2360 degrees immediately. Over.
7 Navy patrol boat. This is British warship Foxtrot.
It records British sailors trying to stop Iran's Revolutionary Guard from seizing a UK flag tanker in the Strait of Hormuz.
You must not impair, impede, obstruct or hamper the passage of the MV Stena Imperio.
But Iranian sailors took the British ship anyway. Iran released this footage yesterday showing masked commandos rappelling from helicopters. Today, Iran releasing video of the ship held in port, now topped with an Iranian flag. From Tehran's perspective, the publicity is part of the plan. NBC's Ali Arouzi is in Tehran.
The video of the IRGC storming the tanker and the radio communications released today are dramatic, provocative, and aggressive. And that's exactly the message the guards want to get across, that if their interests are threatened, they can cause major disruption.
Iran says it was just enforcing international law, but new questions tonight on whether it was payback for Britain seizing an Iranian oil tanker on the 4th of July.
The UK government have raised the issue with the UN Security Council, and they say they're trying every diplomatic method they can to defuse a situation that's increasingly looking like tit-for-tat retaliation. Kate?
Matt Bradley, thank you. British Airways abruptly canceled all flights between London's Heathrow Airport and the Egyptian capital of Cairo this weekend for what the government there calls a heightened risk of terrorism. Sarah Harmon has more on this from London. Sarah?
Kate, Cairo is canceled, at least if you're flying British Airways. BA is suspending all of their flights to the Egyptian capital for 1 week due to an unspecified security threat. The airline says it's a precaution to allow for further assessment. The UK Foreign Office warns there's a heightened risk of terrorism against aviation.
And are U.S. airlines affected?
Well, the FAA says there are no U.S. airlines that fly directly to or from Cairo, but there is currently a Level 2 travel advisory in effect for Egypt. The State Department is warning Americans to exercise increased caution due to terrorism. Kate?
All right, Sarah Harmon, thank you. It was a startling incident for airline passengers when 2 Southwest planes collided on the tarmac at Nashville International Airport. The airline says the winglets of 2 planes came into contact during pushback from the gate area. An image captured by a passenger shows the damage there to the top fin of one of the planes. The first S in Southwest appears to be clipped off. No injuries were reported, and the planes were taken out of service. President Trump launched new Twitter attacks on 4 Democratic congresswomen today as more lawmakers decry the rhetoric emerging from the nation's highest office as racist. Hans Nichols has the latest on the escalating tensions with no clear end in sight.
Before returning to Washington after a weekend at his Bedminster Golf Resort, President Trump sharpened his attacks today on 4 Democratic lawmakers of color, characterizing them as weak and insecure, even suggesting that they are irredeemable. I don't believe the 4 congresswomen are capable of loving our country, the president tweeted. Today, Democratic lawmakers returned fire.
Do you believe President Trump is a racist?
I believe he is. Yes, no doubt about it. And I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt.
He is somebody that is using race like a weapon to divide our country against itself.
But White House advisors defended the president, accusing Democrats of playing the race card.
I fundamentally disagree with the view that if you criticize somebody and they happen to be a different color skin, that makes it a racial criticism.
Both sides now digging in, preparing for a long battle.
We're not going anywhere.
While Vice President Pence was unclear whether Mr. Trump would stay silent, like he did for 13 seconds last week, if his supporters repeat their chant, "Send her back."
The president was very clear.
Was he?
That he wasn't happy about it. And that if it happened again, he'd make an effort to speak out about it.
And Hans is with us now. Hans, Democrats have called special counsel Robert Mueller to testify before Congress this week. What do we expect?
Well, the challenge, Kate, for Democrats is going to get Mueller to go beyond what he wrote in his report, which Mueller has already said should serve as his testimony, and also get Mueller to clarify what he meant when he was saying that Attorney General William Barr didn't capture the context, nature, and substance of his report. Kate?
All right, Hans Nichols, thank you. Still ahead, the giant concert promoter Live Nation accused of selling tickets directly to scalpers and sending prices even higher. Also, catch and release the family that caught more than just a fish. There are new allegations tonight about how the country's largest concert promoter helped some artists place their tickets directly on the secondary market, also known as scalpers, without giving fans a chance to buy them at face value. Molly Hunter reports.
The world's largest live entertainment company is in hot water for helping bands scalp tickets at higher prices. Live Nation, which also owns Ticketmaster, tells NBC News it has worked with bands to put concert tickets directly on the secondary market, the legal practice we call scalping.
They are not alone in this practice. It has been an open secret in the concert industry for years.
Live Nation says bands know the face value is often lower than the market value, and many work with a middleman like Ticketmaster to try and recapture some of the money left on the table. The controversy center stage because of an exclusive report in the industry magazine Billboard, focusing on a recorded phone call in February 2017 between a promoter for Metallica and Live Nation's U.S. concert president Bob Rue. According to the call, their agreement to sell some 88,000 Metallica tickets directly to resale sites at higher prices, never putting them up for sale at their lower face value. Live Nation confirms they worked with an independent consultant for Metallica on a unique distribution strategy that used the secondary market. Reps for Metallica tell Billboard that the band members never knew. Here's the thing. It's a catch-22 for any artist. Either price the tickets at market value like the Rolling Stones have been doing for years, selling more expensive tickets, or price lower and avoid angering fans. Some analysts even estimate the secondary market is worth up to $10 billion. But lawmakers say it should be all about transparency, and fans should know where their tickets are coming from and where their money is going. Molly Hunter, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Protests erupted again in Hong Kong today and turned violent when police fired tear gas and rubber bullets following a massive pro-democracy rally. Demonstrations began more than a month ago in opposition to a proposed bill that would allow extradition to mainland China. Demands have now expanded to include calls by the protesters for electoral reforms. And in Portugal, thousands of firefighters are battling a huge wildfire blazing through the middle of that country. At least 8 firefighters and a dozen civilians have been injured. Helicopters and tanker planes are being used to fight the flames. Back here in the U.S., a shark gave a family quite the scare when it leapt into the air just a few feet from their fishing boat in Cape Cod. Check this out. A young boy was watching the catch being reeled in yesterday when you see that great white suddenly emerge from the water and snatch the fish right off the line. No one was injured during that close encounter. We're back in a moment with the Wisconsin town that was promised thousands of jobs when President Trump made a deal to bring a new factory there. Now some residents are calling it all a scam. Plus, the ultimate in beach boardwalk entertainment brought back to life. It was 2 years ago this week that President Trump and the Taiwanese production giant Foxconn struck a costly deal to bring a large factory to the town of Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin. It came with the promise of jobs and economic revitalization. But as Jolene Kent reports, many residents now believe those promises were broken.
It was heralded as a great deal.
This is the eighth wonder of the world.
2 years ago, President Trump announced a massive new plant for Foxconn, the Taiwanese electronics manufacturer, breaking ground in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin last year.
And this is just the beginning.
The plan? Build a $10 billion manufacturing hub to make LCD TV screens, creating 13,000 blue-collar jobs. In return, Foxconn secured more than $4 billion in tax breaks from the state.
So it started out, I think people were very excited.
Community activist Kelly Gallagher has been tracking Foxconn since day one. To make the plant possible, Mount Pleasant has ended up borrowing money to buy up land.
Mount Pleasant is on track to spend close to $900 million in land acquisition and infrastructure. That's 38 times our annual budget.
The town's credit rating has been downgraded because of that. Foxconn has also changed the scale of the project, telling Reuters it's too expensive to make TV screens in the U.S.
Then they said it was going to be a technology hub, and then they said it was going to be an AI institute.
The drama has homeowners furious, too.
This is Prairie View Drive, and this road here used to lead into an entire neighborhood of houses. But Foxconn's building, they've been cleared out, and those residents are now asking, was it worth it?
Kim Mahoney is one of them. She built her custom home in this subdivision with a dozen neighbors.
The whole process has been somewhat of a nightmare.
Now, Mahoney's is the last house standing. Her neighbors took offers from the village government to move out and raise their homes. She says she received a lowball appraisal, so she stood her ground.
I think this whole project was a scam. I don't trust anything our president says. He is not looking out for the residents of Mount Pleasant. He's looking out for himself.
NBC News requested interviews with Foxconn and the village of Mount Pleasant. Both declined. In a statement, Foxconn says it's pouring a concrete foundation and is thrilled to be moving into the next stages of construction. The company says it looks forward to beginning production in late 2020. The local government tells us they remain optimistic, and the deal includes strong taxpayer protections.
Have residents been taken for a ride here? There's a real fear that we have been taken for a ride. Our only hope is that they build something.
Jolene Kent, NBC News, Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin.
When we come back, the biggest musical instrument in the world finally making music again. It is the biggest musical instrument in the world, and it has sat neglected for more than 50 years. But today, after a lot of hard work, it's making music again. Here's NBC's Ron Allen on the volunteers who spent a decade bringing it back to life.
On the boardwalk of Atlantic City, the sound of the Mid-Merloche pipe organ soars through the famed Boardwalk Hall. A massive engineering marvel that first thrilled audiences back in the 1930s.
How many pipes are in the entire organ? Roughly 33,000. 33,000. Yes.
At 90, Brant Duddy is the same age as the organ. It was all but destroyed by a deadly hurricane in the 1940s and then neglected for nearly half a century. Duddy and a team of volunteers have spent the past 10 years taking it apart and putting it back together.
These things have soul, and it reaches you, just grabs you and holds on.
An instrument literally built into the wall, ceiling, and basement of what was then a hugely popular 40,000-seat venue.
So we are in the organ.
Yes.
That's the auditorium out there.
That's the auditorium.
Our guide took us behind the walls. The largest pipe, 64 feet tall, made of wood, the smallest the size of a fingertip. It mimics an entire orchestra.
It's hard to grasp how massive this thing is.
And that's the beauty of it. It's hidden behind here because it's meant to just bring music to the hall.
Machines pump hundreds of pounds of air pressure up from the basement to power the sound. All that, and they've restored only half of it.
You could close your eyes, and the music to me it was as though there was waves here, and you could feel the music just kind of floating.
They still have several years of painstaking work to fully restore it. A musical treasure coming back to life. Ron Allen, NBC News, Atlantic City.
Wow, you can visit it in Atlantic City. And that is NBC Nightly News on a Sunday. I'm Kate Snow. For all of us here, have a great night.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.